Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. Before I get to our guests here today, I'd like to remind everyone that if you enjoy this content, to please give a like and subscribe down below. We greatly appreciate it. We have Aftan Noon here on the podcast. She's a WBFF pro coming to us. She's also a personal trainer, but most importantly, she's our current guest. So why don't you give us a little bit of a backstory on what inspired you to adapt that healthy and fit lifestyle?
Um, what what I really just started to be healthy was kind of started at a young age. I was a very hyper child, and so my parents would always make me kind of run and do different things to get out my energy and kind of stop annoying them. So, for example, my dad, he would say, "Go run around the house this many times," and I didn't know how to count, so of course I did more than what I was supposed to. If I was on 50, maybe he'd say, "Oh, that's 7," and keep going. So that's how I developed my first habit for running, and then of course being faster and doing like street races with the kids on the block and beating all the guys. That was how I got started into fitness. And then more into the lifting transitioned into high school when I started seeing more muscular people and thinking I wanted to look like that, and also not doing very well in PE when it came to the tests. So I decided to do the weight training and win what was called a Mrs. Flex. So your senior year of high school, there's a Mrs. Flex, which is a bicep, and the men do the calves. And I'm like, freshman year, I'm like, I want to do that. So I trained my biceps really hard and did it. And and then I won Mrs. Flex. So ever since then, I've been lifting at a young age of 14. So.
That's awesome. So you also were a runner throughout college. How was that running experience? Do you think how did that benefit when you made that big change, get into bodybuilding? Do you think that athletic background really, really helped you?
Yes, so running in college made a huge help to always having a low body fat. So I've never really had that challenge of having to drop a lot of body fat. I've always kind of been there. So that has helped so much when it comes to being lean for a show. My coach was the strength and conditioning coach for all sports. So that's where I kind of got that momentum to be like, okay, I think I want to be a personal trainer. This is cool what she's doing. And just the different things you learn with strength training seems so much more interesting. There's a lot more to it than running 12 laps, whatever laps around the track.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Now, when you were getting started in the gym, I always love to make the comparison, if you were to go in there, there's 100 different ways as to how everyone gets into shape. I mean, there's the nutrition, there's the dieting, there's the working out, how many reps they do, what exercises they do. All the little things add up to the package that people end up seeing in the gym. And I always like to say, if you were to go up to someone and say, like, hey, what did you do for this body part? Because it's amazing. Like, what did you do? What worked best for them 99% of the time is not going to work as good for you. Was that a struggle for you at all?
No, not necessarily. I was very kind of in tune with what I wanted my body to look like. I was actually an art major in figural painting, so I'm very attuned to what looks good on a body, what's missing. So for most people, like rear delts and back, usually, especially men who like to just work their chest, I wanted to get a full cap around my shoulder. So I would ask when I was younger, how do I work my rear delts? How do I do this? So they're really developed compared to most people right now because of those things, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And how long into your journey before you decided that, hey, I could really do bodybuilding? Was it what you always wanted to do starting out, or was it just one of those things that eventually you're just like, hey, I think I could pull this off?
Yeah. Well, there's this lady in high school's mom. She's like, "Oh, you would be really good at these fitness shows." Like when I was a teenager, but that's when they did like the gymnastics, the one-handed push-up, all the like the gymnast type stuff involved in it. And so when I graduated, I'm like, "Oh, I should do this because I still want to compete." Running was kind of coming to an end note there, so I still wanted to do something to stay in low body fat because running just does that for you. If I stopped running, and eating as much as I was eating, I wouldn't look the same. So I kind of got that motivation from her. And then just as I developed throughout high school and college, people would say things like, oh, you could be a fitness model or do this stuff. So that's kind of what made the launch of me wanting to get fitness and build on more muscle was to go in that direction of being like fitness model.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always love to ask, what is that first prep like? Because we get all these people that come on and they don't realize that just to get into shape, I mean, you were already in shape for the running and whatnot, but just to get into shape to get ready for a prep takes so much hard work and dedication. But going into a prep, I mean, that's just notching things up to a whole different level. What was that experience like for you?
Prep is completely different, especially as you get the hang of it and do it correctly. The first round, I did an NPC and I did it all on my own. So I lifted everything on my own, ate how I ate, And I ended up getting second, which is still really good, but I didn't have the outside eye to look at what my body was developing into. So my second show, I got a coach just on legs and nutrition made a huge difference. I grew up in a family that didn't eat a lot of meat. My mom's vegan now, so I didn't know or have that protein intake that my trainer was giving me at that time, and that made a huge difference in my size and keeping my muscle mass. And then my WBFF now that I do, I'm a pro at that. On my first show, I got my pro card. She helped so much with develop my body into looking more feminine, because if I didn't have her, I'd look more like a figure girl, wider up top, a little smaller legs. So she helped really develop my legs and make everything well-rounded. Really comes down to nutrition though, because how you eat will be how your body develops, and the type of energy, and then the carb depleting and water depleting at the end makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where people just don't realize how big of an impact the nutrition and the diet plays into it. So one of the big myths and misconceptions that I love to bust on this podcast, and it's gotten better the last 5 years due to Instagram, but there's still just such a incredible amount of women that believe that if they touch one weight, they're just going to hulk out and, put on 50 pounds of muscle overnight. Being a personal trainer, I bet you deal with this all the time. Did you ever have that fear when you were starting out in the gym? Because I know that you were super lean being a runner, and that, you've just kind of been so used to having that lean body type. Was that ever a fear for you of putting on too much muscle? And even if it wasn't, like I said, being a personal trainer, I bet you hear that all the time. What is your main response to that?
I have never had a fear of it at all, because it never happened. Like, work out until you might see it start to happen, at least test the waters first. But no, you're not going to get big and bulky and super masculine looking, especially if you manage to keep a lower body fat. Like, let's say your body fat's 30% and you get a lot of muscle. Yeah, you might look a little bigger than what you were before, but you got to lose the body fat too, and then gain toning, because it's going to shape you up. You're not going to have like just a straight hanging arm there. You're going to get a shoulder cap, a little bit of tricep. So no, it's not going to make you look like Hulk at all unless you start taking tea or anything like that. We just don't have the amount of testosterone in our bodies to get that big.
Yeah, that's what I always like to say. It's one of those things. It's like, what is the worst thing that's going to happen to you? You're going to get healthier. So 100%. That's what I always say to people when they talk to me about that. But now, everyone always has that one body part just naturally that is just really, really well built for them, that they don't have to train as much. And then everyone always has that one body part that really, they just need to train to overdrive sort of to get that caught up. For me personally, like my back, I could train back, once a month and it would look just amazing. It's one of those weird things. But me also being 6'3", my legs are something that, I always need to be constantly training. But what are those body parts for you?
So for me, my arms develop really quickly because my body fat's the lowest there. My biceps can get pretty big fast. What's the hardest to develop is probably hamstrings a little bit, to really get that peak out in the back, because as a distance runner, I'm more quad dominant. So I'm not used to engaging that hamstring. And I had like a severe pull of my hamstring right after college. So just getting that is more challenging.
Have you found that you were, like you said, you were very lean even as a runner, like at a pretty low body fat percentage? Did you find it hard to put on muscle just because your body was so used to being at that stage of leanness?
No, I actually put on muscle pretty fast. I was a really strong kid for my size. So there wasn't a problem with it at all.
Oh wow.
With gaining the muscle.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because usually it's around the opposite, where people are like, yeah, we have just a little bit of struggle with that, because we've had people that have come on that have just been really, really skinny and then just trying to put that on. But yeah, it's I think also too, just that the athletic background of your body's just always been kind of like a calorie burning machine though too, being a runner. So it's just, that's just one of those things that I wish I could do that when it came down to running for me, but I do not like running. I'm one of those people that just doesn't like it. But how has your diet also changed? Because like I said, you're a calorie burning machine basically when you're a runner, just because of the amount of calories that you burn. And then going into bodybuilding, you probably are still burning an insane amount of calories, but maybe not as much as you were running. How has your diet changed at all?
My diet is a lot less carbs now. Like before, it was pasta every night. I always had like sandwiches and rice and noodles like galore, and cookies, and like you could just carb load your body out and be good if you're running 70 miles a week or so. Now it's a lot more protein. I am eating more vegetables now too, so I'm getting the nutrients, and it's more complex carbs instead of the simple. So it's different in that way.
But I love to ask, all the guests that I have on too as well. I mean, if you were to poll the general public, you would get a small singular percentage of people who would be willing to, go up on stage and pose in a bikini. Was that ever a struggle for you? Because we have so many people on here that, they have to sort of build up the courage and the determination to get on there. How have you dealt with that?
So I always had a lot of confidence as a young child. I had parents who were always motivating and believed that I could do anything. So I didn't have a confidence of what I looked like ever. A lot of people do struggle with that and they're not told that they're good at things. So I think that's what made me a little bit better and have an edge. For people who I say are nervous, just go out there, get yourself a coach. That'll help the most, and surround yourself with people who believe in you, and then you'll start to gain more confidence as that comes to do your own show.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. It's just
yeah.
about that motivation and that confidence that, I mean, it really, really does absolutely go a long way. But what was that experience like for you when it came down to the posing? Because for a lot of people, they don't realize that posing is, for most of these competitors, the hardest thing. It's harder than your diet. It's harder than your nutrition. What was that experience like with you? Because I always like to say, you can be a great driver. You can never be a perfect driver. You can be a great poser. You can never be a perfect poser.
Yes, posing is really, really important, especially in WBFF, because it's about stage presence, it's about 40% of your judging. So having like a coach again is good for that. I had Toby coach me for my last two shows, and you really want to feel confident and make sure you're not awkwardly moving your body. So really practice in front of a mirror helps. And then videoing yourself not in front of a mirror and rewatching that video and then going right into it the next time is to practice the posing. Always know to breathe. And as you get nervous, you'll start to extend things more. Like if you're in figure and NPC, you might start to raise your arms up higher and higher. So having little cue notes to remember, like maybe fingertips can touch the thighs, little things like that to get better at posing. But it does really matter, because if you pose just slightly better than someone else with a better body, you could possibly beat them.
Oh, 100%. I've always liked to say, if you were the most in shape person on the planet, it doesn't matter. If you're a horrible poser, you're not going to amount to that much. So that's 100%. I completely agree. But what was their experience like stepping on that stage? Because I always like to ask, all my guests that I have on my show, whether they're the up and coming bands or the health and fitness people. For my bands, I ask, what is that feeling like performing live? But for my health and fitness people, what is that feeling like when you get to step on stage and, show off all of that hard work that you've put months upon months into that work?
Well, it goes by so fast. Like the best part is honestly spending time with the ladies in the back and helping them with like something that might fall apart. Glue is like the number one thing backstage, gluing on rhinestones. So I wasn't too nervous. I'm very comfortable in front of the camera, hence my YouTube channel and kind of doing that. The hardest thing this pro show was we were up there comparing for 20-25 minutes. So once I walked off stage, my quads just were tight and I had to sit down, and my lower back was really tight. So that's the biggest thing about going on stage. But I say, go out there, have fun, make sure you're breathing and you don't hold your breath, and always go a little slower
Yeah.
than you want.
Absolutely. And you're one of the handful of people that I've had on that have won their pro card in their first show. What was that experience like? Because, I mean, just trying out bodybuilding and then you win your pro card, what is that like?
So it was my first WBFF and it was really exciting, but I went in visualizing and knowing what I wanted to do and what I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to get my pro card. I want to win a crown eventually. Hopefully that's when you get first at a pro or worlds. So I was excited and prepared. Got a little nervous toward the end, especially if you're comparing on Instagram, kind of who are you going against. But as soon as I was there, I kind of knew at that point, okay, I'm going to do pretty well. Hopefully this works out in my favor. And it did, and it was exciting, and I got a sponsor since. So when you get that pro card, you can either apply for a sponsor or maybe your coaches know of one, which helps a lot with your pro show.
Yeah, that's just unbelievable. And again, because we've had guests on here that have worked, a decade to 2 decades just to get that pro card, but to get it so early on, I mean, that's just awesome. But I always got to ask, what is your go-to post-show meal?
Go-to post show is usually probably like cheesecake. Usually I can never find the right place to do it, so it ends up being something like pizza or fried chicken, like from Cane's.
Ooh,
Their
that's
sauce
good.
I really love. So mostly cheesecake,
Yeah.
anything sweet.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, yeah, you got to go with something totally 100% sweet. But now, one of the things that I always love to bring up to all of our guests that we have on, it's one of the most important questions because, and it's not really talked about on Instagram or any other forms of social media, is the fact that a lot of people don't realize. I mean, I'll give an example. I was at a New Year's Eve party. One of my friends came up to me and said, "Hey, I love your podcast." I was surprised that all these bodybuilders you have on that they don't look that way 365 days out of the year. Their stage look because so many people just in the media they always just broadcast if there is any coverage it's all during the shows or it's during the prep so you see what they look like when they're getting about to step on stage or when they're getting ready for it. People don't realize that that look is not sustainable and that you are going to have to put on weight after a show. Was that ever a struggle for you, knowing mentally that like, hey, all these months upon months of working out, I will have to put on some weight? Now granted, you were a runner, so you're kind of used to, like you said, having that low body fat, but you will still have to put on a couple of pounds afterwards. Has that ever been a struggle for you?
It actually started being a struggle last week because I'm really trying to make more gains.
Mhm.
So I need to put on a little more body fat to do that. I'm resting around 16, which is the highest I've been like my entire life. Show is around 9 to 10. When I was running, it was always like 11 to 12. So right now, you feel a little more self conscious, especially like people love my Flex Fridays on
Mhm.
YouTube, and I get a little nervous to do Flex Fridays when I know I'm still looking shape,
Yeah.
compared to the average person, but I'm not as like cut and shredded. So it does get to you a little bit in cases like that. But once I get to that point where I'm really, really good, I probably won't have to go up as high in body fat, like not peaking, prepping for this next show. It'll go down right away. So the biggest thing is just make sure you're not gaining too much body fat and making it harder on yourself for your next show
Mhm.
because you really don't need to gain so much.
How have you survived the holidays? Did you overindulge at all, or was it more of a little bit restrictive eating? How did you approach it?
So my first pro show, I got second, and it was December 1st. So I had no Thanksgiving food. It was normal prep food. And then come Christmas, one of my clients invited me and my husband to their dinner. So we had that because we didn't leave town this year. So I got to eat and indulge, and it was right after the show. So I was doing some naughty things.
Yeah,
I'm feeling good about
oh, well,
it.
yeah, 100%. You got to allow yourself. Like for me, for example, I put on probably about, like 15 pounds since probably September. That's just because, up in Minnesota, you got to have a little bit of winter weight on you just because that's how you survive during the winter. If I were to be like a super leanness, yeah, being cold, like right now, it's what, like 10 degrees outside. So yeah, walking outside, yeah, that's not a fun thing to do. So yeah, it's all about, just realizing that you are not going to be able to maintain that and just letting yourself go every once in a while, not like go, but just giving yourself that leeway to just put on some pounds. 100%. Yeah, if you let yourself go, yeah, that's completely different. So now I always love to ask all of the guests. I mean, one of the things that I found out when I started working out and going to the gym a lot in college specifically is that you're going to get asked to move a lot of people's furniture. You're going to get asked to open a lot of pickle jars. I mean, I'm still at home with my parents for the next few months, and every time they come home with groceries, I lift the entire car basically into the driveway. What has that been a similar experience with you, or just because people can take one look at you and say like, "Oh my God, yeah, she's in shape. She can help me with that stuff."
No one's really said anything like that, but in cases of like my husband, I'll want to be like damsel in distress and
Yep.
be like, honey, can you reach this or can you get this for me? And he knows I'm strong enough, so he'll be like, no, you can do it. I'm like, well, man.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I know. Yeah, I was gonna say, that. I mean, if I had someone like that, I'd probably say, half the time I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'll help you with that, and then the other half I'd be like, nah, you can really do it yourself. But yeah, I totally get where you want him to do the stuff too. Probably my favorite question that I love to ask all of our guests that come on, and again, this is a multi-million-dollar idea for everyone out there. But when it comes to clothes for fit women, your clothing options can be limited. I always love to say, like if you have big, broad shoulders, dresses can be somewhat out of the picture. Jeans are another thing that we hear of that it's just a horrible struggle, being that most of these competitors have like really big lower bodies, and then you got supposed to have a tight waist, so then that jeans just won't fit. What are some ways that you sort of compensate for the fact that your clothing options can be limited?
It's all about the spandex,
Yeah.
right? No. So biggest thing is that's one thing I did find as I started to get more muscular, I didn't look as good in some feminine clothing, depending like where it was cut. So just make sure you try it on before you buy to make sure you look good in it. One thing when I was doing figure, my lats got really big. So I was actually like, I ripped 3 or 4 of my jackets at the seam right here from bending forward. And that was where I'm like, okay, I want to do something else. So I moved down to fitness instead of figure. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of those things that I always love to say. I've had two fashion guests on, and just telling them, you know what, hey, I have an idea that really would work out, so we'll see if they can get onto that. I mean, I hope that they can. But now you're also a personal trainer. What has been probably the biggest struggle for you being a personal trainer? Because most people, when they think about personal training, they just think, that you're just helping out these clients, you're really helping them get into shape, but it's just so much more.
Yeah, personal training can be challenging, and I found it's actually more challenging during prep
Mhm.
because I'm moodier and I'm
Yes.
super focused and in the zone. So I expect my clients to be at that level, which they aren't. Most of them are general pop. So I kind of put that pressure on them, and then it comes back to me, and I'm like emotionally like, why aren't you doing this? So I realize I'm just nicer
Mhm.
and more empathetic when I'm not in a show. Other than that, the hardest thing about training is just that it's not a consistent income at
Mhm.
all because clients have reschedules around the holidays. I dropped 2/3 of my clients, which was insane
Mhm.
just because it was the end of their contract or the season was coming, just
Mhm.
things were coming up. And that's a good hit.
Yeah.
So that's probably the worst thing about training. And the best thing is just their confident change. And you're literally making them into like a different person that feels great about themselves and they treat their family and ones around them better. So
100%. And I mean, now we're kind of in the gym part where it's kind of like Armageddon, because now you have the New Year's resolution people coming on. So what is that period like for a personal trainer? I mean, I've always had that imagined as what it's like for just someone else in the gym, but I'm lucky because, like I've mentioned to many of my other guests, I work out, 75% of my workouts are at home, so I don't deal with that as much. But what is that like as a personal trainer when you get all the New Year's resolutioners coming in? Is that sort of like your big time to shine?
In a way, yeah, because I love getting new people because there's like a revampedness to
Mm-hmm.
it instead of kind of not having gotten someone for a while. You feel like you're ready to go, you're more organized. It's just nice to get new clients around this time. I really like it. The gym hasn't been really too busy, but I think people are still coming off a new year and then
Mm-hmm.
they'll come in.
Well, I think the problem was too is that, especially for people, for someone like me who, like, I was gonna start. I'm one of those really anal people where it has to be like a good date and a good time. So like January 1st, that comes on a Tuesday, and I was like, oh, well, I'll start working out then the next Monday, the first Monday of the new year, then, so then it can be a full week. I'm one of those type of guys, yeah, too, where if everything falls on a
Really?
day perfect, yeah, yeah, I'm one of those. So like now, I'm still working out, but I'm not doing it as much as but yeah, the official real training for me then starts on the next Monday, then, so I can say it's the first Monday of the new year, so it's the first new full week that I can do it. So yeah, I'm definitely one of those guys. But
Yeah.
what is probably the number one excuse that you hear from people as opposed that are saying, like, you know what, I don't have time or whatnot? Is that usually the biggest one that you hear?
Yeah, the time is the biggest one. And I'm all about time. Like, I
Mhm.
need to fit this in this hour, workouts this hour, so I can get everything done and hit these goals and everything. I think some people just need to get a planner, take it high school style, write it down. You know what I mean? Because I do have some clients that like to be chatty Cathy's in the gym, and I'm training other clients and I can see them. I'm like, you could have food prepped right now or something. You know what I mean? So
What
definitely.
100%. And like I always say, we've had nurses on here that have worked, 14-hour shifts, and they're still able to get their workout. And it's all about just your
Mhm.
commitment to the gym, and it's all about just real making it a priority. Because if you really got down to it, all the time that people waste in a day when it's just, surfing the internet or scrolling through their phones or doing anything else that they do, that is time that they could be doing something. So if you really had someone come down and, like, if you had someone come down and follow you over the course of one day, they could probably write down, like a couple of hours worth of stuff where you're like, oh, you could have done that there, you could have done that there instead of doing that. So it's, yeah, whenever someone uses that excuse, I always say no. It's just all about you don't realize your priorities. But then there are some people that are generally busy, but for the vast majority of people, that is definitely something that really, that they, if they evaluated, they'd say, you know what, I actually do have a lot of time in there. But now
Yeah.
we go to the questionnaire part of the podcast, which is my favorite part, where I ask our guests here about a dozen or so health and fitness questions, and we compare how they have been to the other health and fitness guests that we've had on. So, for our first question, what is your go to workout song at the moment?
Um, I don't know. I listen to Pandora, so my station Shakira.
Ooh, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one. Yeah, I'm more of an old school where I got to get the 80s music in, or, I'll have like the cheesiest, like Rocky 4 soundtrack will be coming on. So yeah, you got to find your right thing of tunes that really that really inspires you and gives you that extra motivation on those days when you're not feeling it so much. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could work out with any celebrity, who would it be?
Um, Celebrity. I think Usain Bolt because he's like genetically insane.
Ugh, yeah. Yeah, that would be an interesting training partner to work with, just because, like, yeah, he is just so, yeah,
He's the
genetically blessed.
fastest man in the world.
Well, yeah, that too. I mean, it's just, yeah, that would be an insane workout partner. But yeah, that would be great. That's the first Usain Bolt that we've had on, so I'll have to add him onto the list. But now for our third question, being a personal trainer, this is right up your alley. But now, out of all the celebrities on the planet, if you could train any celebrity, who would it be?
Um, it would probably be uh, Oprah Winfrey, just because she would teach me so much and I could have so many questions, and she'd probably be training me more than I would train her, like on life stuff.
Would you let Gail come with?
Gail?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
well, she always follows Oprah with a lot of those things. So I was gonna say you're probably gonna have to train both of them. But yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Oprah would be an unbelievable training partner, I think too. Yeah, just because she has so much life experience that, yeah, just hearing her talk, for however many times you guys would do it, I mean, that would just be inspirational in and of itself, 100%. But now, what is one item that you always need to have in your fridge?
Oh, butter.
Butter, yeah. Yeah, I totally.
Especially during off season.
Yeah, I totally. Yeah, butter is just one of those things that, I mean, we've never heard on this podcast, but we're gonna have to put that down. But do you use the low fat butter, or do you just use regular butter?
Now I use that Kerrygold's Irish butter.
Ooh,
It's so good. It's usually for desserts, so I
yeah,
make
that
a lot of desserts.
that's awesome. Yeah. So okay, so thank you for saying something like that, because most of these guests that come on, they say like, I gotta have all this, like low fat stuff, or I gotta have all that stuff. But now we finally have a guest that just says, you know what, I have butter during my off season. So thank you. That finally, yeah, because we finally had, like, one of my guests that I had on too came on, and we finally admitted the one thing, because I thought to myself, I said, not all of my guests must really enjoy working out. And then one woman finally came on and said, you know what, I hate the working out part. I just like how it makes me look. One of the bodybuilders came on, and I said, finally, we found one.
I know, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, I know. So we finally found one. But yeah, butter again. We're breaking down stereotypes left and right here, because we finally got someone who has butter. But now for our fifth question, what is one thing that people who follow you on Instagram would be surprised to know about you if they met you in person?
Oh, that's crazy. I literally just storied them and said, "Hey, if you have any questions, let me know for this podcast." I don't think anyone's answered me though. No one's asked
Ah,
any. Um, so what they might know, oh, I was adopted when I was 4 months old. So
oh yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That would definitely be something. Yeah, that we wouldn't have guessed. But yeah, that's actually a really good one. Yeah, 100%. But now, what is one thing that you would change about the sport of bodybuilding if you had the all-knowing power to do so?
WBFF Federation is the best of the best, so I wouldn't change anything. Um, about bodybuilding. Uh, I don't know. That's a really hard one because it's all like, in the end of the day, it's all like the judges call.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't change anything. I like it.
Hey, that is a good politically correct answer that we got right there. She would not change anything. I'll give my 2 cents though. I will say though, like I said, there it's like every sport though, where there can be like human error, where there can be, just because again, it's up to people, and people are infinitely, they're not perfect, and they're going to make mistakes every once in a while. So yeah, that's my one thing too, is just, just like every other sport. But yeah, the WBFF, I have looked into it, and it is for sure probably one of the premier, well, I shouldn't say probably, but it is one of the premier, divisions. And 100%, yeah, they do an outstanding job when it comes to a lot of their shows and what they do with all of that aspect. I completely agree with you on that. But now, what was the last TV show that you binge watched?
Um, it was Jane the Virgin
Mhm.
not too long ago, and then I was watching. Is it Lucifer?
That's a good one.
I think I started watching that, but now I'm off. I'm not watching a show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because usually a lot of the people that we have on, when they're doing their cardio, that's when they start watching the shows, just because they have a lot of time on the treadmill. But yeah, Jane the Virgin, that I've heard of that. I haven't watched any of those episodes, but Lucifer I watched, which was really really good. So again, yeah, that's a great one. But now, what is your favorite TV show of all time?
Um, Growing up, Sabrina the Teenage Witch. My dad and I would watch it every Friday night. We'd have like crab legs and watch it together. So that's just a memorable one.
That is, yeah, that is definitely one of those ones that really brings me back to when I was very, very young. Just remembering that TV show, 100%. Yeah, that I just had a little flashback right there for a second. So thank you for that. I had a little flashback to when I was like 4 or 5 years old, watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Yeah, I the only thing I remember is that talking cat from when I
Oh
was
yeah,
young.
that's what I
Yeah,
was thinking of,
the talking
literally.
cat. Yeah, 100%, 100%. But now, what is a guilty pleasure movie that you enjoy?
Um, when you said guilty pleasure, I was thinking The Notebook, but I always liked
Oh
Edward
God.
Scissorhands growing up. Well, I mean, guilty pleasure, you're like, oh, no.
Yeah, the
But
Nope.
Edward Scissorhands
Mhm.
is one of my favorites, and we even I walked down to the aisle to the I stance when we
Oh,
got married.
wow. Now that's
I
dedication right there. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
dedication. So yeah, I mean, because I was gonna say mine is The Princess Bride, but I don't know if I mean I could get the theme song maybe to come on and play, but yeah, I mean that's my ultimate date night movie. Like I say, I'm typing my thesis paper in college, and that thing came on, and I stopped doing my thesis paper. So I mean that's dedication, at least I think, and for my part of it. So yeah, we got our guilty pleasure movies out of the way there. So now, if you could go back in time and talk to the 18-year-old version of yourself, what would be the best piece of advice you would give her?
okay, I was 18, so I was just going to college. Oh, I would say get this sounds bad. Get a cert wait, a degree. Get a degree in like something kinesiology
Hmm.
or psychology because I got a degree in figural painting and I really loved it, but I was like so naturally good at art, so I could just get A's like that. And I was mainly focused on track, I wanted to be this Olympic runner, so all my energy went into running, and then like school was a side thing. But I really wished I learned a lot from school and meeting different people, but I wish that I had gotten something more so I could do something like more physical therapy. I
Oh,
don't know.
well, yeah. I mean, I have that. I think that too. I mean, I got a business degree with a minor in history, and I would have done my major in history, but then I changed it last second to a minor because I realized, like I do not want to be a professor. So that's basically the only thing that you can do with a history degree or become a teacher. So yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely changed that. But yeah, even now with my job at UPS, I still have sometimes I was like, oh, maybe if I got it instead of like in marketing or something like that. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of those things too.
yeah.
Where I mean, if I were to go back, that might be something that I would think of for advice. But now, what is your favorite fashion or what?
I was gonna say it would have been a lot smarter to get like a business
Hmm.
minor because I loved doing art.
Hmm.
But I was able to reach my adoptive mother when I was 21, and my art completely changed. So I
Hmm.
realized it was like a therapy thing for me. Um, and it was more of a hobby versus me wanting to work at it and sell it and do all this stuff. So maybe getting like a business degree with it so I knew how to sell art
Hmm.
after that would be so much smarter.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things where, but it's life experiences too. I mean, like I said, if everyone could go back in time and change something when they were 18, everyone would do it. But it's all about, just learning from those mistakes and just saying, like, hey, I am the way I am today based on the decisions that I made. And overall, I am satisfied from what I did. And I mean, hey, you're a bodybuilding pro. So, I mean, that's got to be something satisfying that that you've done from when you were 18. So, what is your favorite fashion trend of all time and least favorite fashion trend of all time?
Favorite fashion trends is jewelry. So chokers. I love chokers because they make you look so feminine and sexy, and I think they're very cute. And not just like the plastic squiggly ones, but like a nicer one. And fashion don't would be like the poncho that fits over you that's like woven and has
Mhm.
tassels or whatnot. No.
Yep. For me, I mean, I'm up in Minnesota, so flannel is a big thing that I always love to have, especially during the winter. But then my least favorite, I mean, my dad ruined this for me in the late 90s, and I can pull, before I say this, because I say this all the time and I get the reaction, but women can pull this off, guys cannot, fanny packs. I'm sorry, but guys pulling off fanny packs, girls can rock fanny packs. Don't get me wrong, but guys, there's certain type of guys where you see them with fanny packs and you're like, come on, you really gotta work on that. So yeah, I mean that's definitely my answer for that. So now we're done with the questionnaire. So yeah, I mean absolutely, I highly recommend. Like Afton said, everyone go and follow her YouTube channel. Everyone go and follow her Instagram. I'll leave links to all of that stuff down below. And again, Afton, we cannot thank you enough for being on the podcast. And do you have any dates in particular of when you're going to compete at for your pro show? Is there any upcoming dates that you have in mind?
Yes, so August 5th through 10th of this year is going to be World Championship. My coach is the two-time World Championship as of 18 and 17, so I'll be on stage with her, and we're going to just work it with our Team Dynasty, and it'll be in the Bahamas. So it'll be kind of like a time around my anniversary too.
Oh God, that's gotta be awesome. So wait, so it's a 5 day long competition?
There's like a media day and
Oh.
registration, all these different things.
I was gonna say because if they're having you guys pose and put that tan on for 5 days straight, that's gonna be that would be horrible. Because we've heard stories enough just having those tans on for 1 or 2 days. Yeah, so that would definitely be interesting. But now we talked a little bit before, and it turns out that you have a very famous guy who used to be an NFL player that you know very well. Could you explain how you got in touch with a certain Mr. Romanowski?
Yeah, so Bill Romanowski, he's my sponsor through Nutrition 53.
Mhm.
He's the CEO of that company. Um, he has really, really good protein, but I got to meet him in Dallas in the summer before, after, I don't know which show it was. Um, and he sponsors me, so I'm able to get supplements and he'll help out with show registration, different things like that, which is so helpful because WBFF is a little bit more expensive. It's always kind of like the pageant version of fitness. We're super fashionable.
Yeah, that's so awesome because when I heard Bill Romanowski, I was like, oh my God, yeah, I know him. I mean, I'm a huge Bill Romanowski fan. So,
Yeah, really
that's
nice.
really really cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's got to be really nice in person because he was known as one of the bad boys in football, just a mean guy on the football field, but off the field, yeah, apparently, supposedly he's really really nice. So yeah, that's totally awesome. But now, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Yeah, Bill Romanowski. Hello. Thank you for sponsoring me.
Mhm,
My coach Stephanie Ayala, Ayala,
mhm.
Ayala, and Carrie McGraw's her husband. So they both coach me. Posing coach Toby Harrison. He's really, really sweet. He lives in Dubai and has this cute English accent. And just all the photographers and my husband for supporting me and my moodiness sometimes. Family, just everyone.
Yeah, we always got to give a shout out to the spouses when we have our male or female bodybuilders on because they do put up with it during the prep. But yeah, the funniest thing though too, you said Stephanie Ayala, and when I was starting to follow all these fitness people when I was starting to work out in college, she was one that popped up, and there was a girl in my high school with that same exact name. So it was kind of weird because I was like, oh, is she really getting into the healthy and fit rope? But I was like, oh no, it's just a different Stephanie Ayala. So I was like, oh, okay, that's strange. So yeah, whenever I hear people say that, I was like, I always think of the girl that's in high school because and they almost look similar too, other than the muscles or whatnot. So I'm always like, oh, that's really strange. So yeah, that's definitely one of those things where yeah, I just had that right there. But again, you guys, Aftan Noon, we cannot thank her enough for coming on the show. Everyone, go and give her a follow. Those links down below. I highly recommend. She's a super inspirational person to go and follow. I'll leave all of the links to her stuff down below. I highly recommend that you guys go and check her out. And again, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing out. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.